Now, on one hand, the social losses look very similar to what we would expect in a global economic downturn. While poverty has been, decreasing during the last 20 years, it's been really dramatic and really wonderful. We've seen, upticks in poverty in the last 2 years. We've seen job loss, and particularly different types of people losing their jobs, given the conditions of the global economic conditions. And so, for example, a lot of like the tourism industry or some of the types of services where there's been a lot of growth into the middle class have been really hit. So there's one hand, we have these economic conditions that are causing poverty now. And then we also worry that, when kids grow up in poverty, that helps generate intergenerational poverty. And so we're worried both about the effects today, but then the effects on the long run. But what makes this pandemic, I think, for me, very different is the fact that in addition to this, to the poverty issues, there's in many countries around the world, schools have been shuttered. You can see like Uganda, India, Indonesia, due to the global pandemic, schools have been shut for many months, in some cases, almost 2 years. And you're going to see kids who, maybe kids who are, 15, 16, who are not going to get a high school degree, which we know has big impacts and returns on wages because they've left and are not going to come back. And we're going to have, 5 and 6 year olds who left school. Maybe you get them back. If you get them back, is the learning environment going to be the same? They've been out of school for 2 years. A lot of the skills you learn about being able to sit and focus and to learn, and maybe there's a lot of loss there. And I think it's something to be thinking about. Now, the second question was, what have been some signs for hope? Here I really do think there's, I've been really impressed. There's been an amazing creativity. I think governments have this really big problem. On one hand, there's the global economic crisis, which means that things like tax revenues are down. Everybody wants money, so it's hard to borrow because everybody's trying to borrow. Rich countries were also hit, so they have less aid money to give, or maybe they've turned inward into focusing on some of their own issues as well. And so you've got limited resources, but you've also need to be able to get out assistance and aid to your citizens really quickly. And so I think there's been a lot of creativity of people trying to use and improve upon existing systems. There's also been a lot of trying to use new technologies. And again, I'm going to also turn to you, Asim. I know Pakistan, for example, tried to use a lot of the digital technologies and trying to get more people signed up for aid. And I think a lot of this creativity about trying to find the right people to help in new ways has been very impressive. Okay, so I know I'm probably taking up most of my time. I want to talk quickly about the lessons learned. I think there's a few things for me. The first is that the systems really matter. During the crisis, a lot of governments got creative about being able to help their citizens, but there were foundations in place that they were able to build off of. And if there weren't, it caused a lot of problems. And so I do think, there's often there's a focus on social protection when times are bad, but the truth is we should be building the systems when times are good so that they're available when we have the bad times and we can react quickly. The second is that I do think then these systems need to be adaptive, and they need to be able to shift in terms of the types and amounts of aid they're able to give out, and to be able to find new people and add people and take people off when they don't need assistance anymore. Be really flexible such that you can target aid to people who really need help. The third is that I do think there's a inwardness that's happening right now, and particularly Stefan, I'd love to hear from you in terms of there's this inwardness in terms of rich countries, the health situation, and how but at the same time, the health situation in other countries also affect us as well. And so I'd love to bring that forth in terms of the discussion. And then the final thing that I'll note is on schools. I do think it's a big issue. I think people right now, schools are starting to reopen, which are fabulous in many countries. I think we need to think carefully about what are the kind of supporting programs that we need to make sure that kids can catch up